Have you ever had one of those days where everything just feels heavy? You're not exactly sad, but you're not quite happy either. Maybe you woke up feeling tired, even though you slept through the night. Maybe your favorite show didn't feel as exciting as it used to. Or maybe you caught yourself thinking, is this just how it is now that I'm older? If that sounds familiar, you're definitely not alone. Here's the truth no one talks about enough. Mental health after 65 matters just as much as physical health. Maybe even more. Because when your mind feels clear, balanced, and strong, everything else in life feels a little easier. You move better, you sleep better, you even smile more. But when your mental health takes a hit, it can quietly affect everything. Your energy, your relationships, even your memory. And what makes it even trickier is that the habits hurting your mental health often don't look harmful at first. In fact, some of them seem completely normal, maybe even harmless. But over time, they chip away at your well-being, quietly, steadily, and without warning. That's why today we're going to talk about 4 sneaky habits that can secretly destroy your mental health after 65, and more importantly, what you can do instead. Because small changes can bring big results, and it's never too late to feel better, think clearer, and live with more joy. Let's begin with something most people don't even recognize as a habit, yet it's one of the most common traps older adults fall into, and that's isolation. Not complete loneliness, necessarily. You might still see people here and there, a phone call, a neighbor, a family member dropping by, but isolation can creep in quietly. Maybe you used to meet friends for lunch every week, and now it's once a month. Maybe you used to volunteer or attend church or visit the library, and now you just stay home. It starts slow, a canceled plan here, a rainy day there. And before you know it, your social world has shrunk to 4 walls, a television, and the occasional trip to the grocery store. And even if you don't feel lonely in the traditional sense, your brain notices. Human connection isn't a luxury, it's a necessity, especially as we age. Studies show that isolation increases the risk of depression, anxiety, and even memory loss. Your brain is wired to connect, to talk, to laugh, to listen, to be seen and heard. Without that stimulation, it starts to slow down. And emotionally, you begin to feel disconnected, not just from others, but from yourself. But here's the good news. Connection doesn't have to mean throwing yourself into a crowd or joining a bunch of clubs. It can be as simple as calling someone just to talk, not about anything important, just to connect. It can be chatting with a neighbor on your walk. It can be saying yes to that invitation you almost turned down. It's not about being constantly busy. It's about being emotionally present, even in small ways. Now let's talk about the second habit, one that might surprise you. It's overconsumption of news and negativity. Yes, staying informed is important, but there's a big difference between catching up on headlines and soaking in a constant stream of fear, drama, and division. If your television is on all day, if your tablet or phone is constantly buzzing with bad news, your mind can start to feel overwhelmed, anxious, and helpless. And the worst part? You start to believe that the world is only bad, that everything is falling apart, that there's nothing to look forward to. But that's simply not true. There's still beauty. There's still kindness. There's still joy. And you deserve to feel it. It's okay to limit how much news you take in. Give yourself permission to turn it off. Watch a comedy instead. Listen to music that lifts you up. Read something lighthearted. Your mental environment matters just as much as your physical one. Just like you wouldn't breathe in dirty air all day, don't let your mind breathe in fear nonstop. Filter what you allow in. And if you want to stay informed, set boundaries. Maybe check the news once in the morning and once in the evening. That's usually enough to stay in the loop without drowning in negativity. The goal isn't to ignore the world. It's to protect your peace while still being aware. Both of these habits, withdrawing from connection and soaking in negativity, have a way of making the world feel smaller, colder, and more overwhelming. But they don't have to win. You can take small, steady steps to shift that energy. You can create space for joy, conversation, and hope again. You deserve that. You always have. Now that we've uncovered how isolation and negative input can quietly wear down your mental health, there's another silent habit that works just as sneakily, but in a more personal way. Let's talk about a habit that doesn't just affect how you feel, but how you see yourself. One that's so common, especially as we get older, that most people don't even notice it anymore. And that habit is self-neglect. Now, before you say, "That's not me," pause for just a moment. Self-neglect doesn't always mean poor hygiene or missing doctor's appointments. It can be far more subtle, like putting everyone else's needs before your own, ignoring your emotional pain, brushing off your own health concerns with, "I'll be fine," or even telling yourself that it's too late to change. It's those quiet thoughts like, "What's the point?" Or, "I'm too old to start over," or, "No one's really listening anyway." That kind of thinking, repeated over time, can wear down your spirit. It makes you feel invisible, like you're no longer a priority, not to others and not even to yourself. But here's something you might need to hear today. You are not too old to matter. You are not too late to grow, and your needs are not a burden. You've spent years, decades taking care of other people. You've shown up, provided, nurtured, sacrificed, and now you deserve to turn some of that care inward. Because when you neglect your own emotional, mental, and even spiritual needs, your brain starts to operate in survival mode instead of thriving mode. You feel tired, irritable, detached. And that's not just in your head, it's in your chemistry. Chronic self-neglect alters the way your brain functions over time. So what does caring for yourself really look like? It doesn't have to mean a big life overhaul. It can start with something as small as making your favorite breakfast instead of just grabbing whatever's easiest, or sitting outside in the sunlight for 10 minutes just to enjoy the warmth on your skin. It could be setting boundaries with someone who drains your energy, or picking up that old hobby you let go of years ago. Painting, gardening, singing, dancing, writing. And most importantly, it means speaking kindly to yourself. Not in a cheesy way, but in a real, compassionate, honest way. Instead of waking up and thinking, "Ugh, another day," try, "I'm still here. I still have today. Let's see what I can do with it." That tiny shift in inner dialogue can begin to change how your entire day unfolds. How you treat yourself is how your brain starts to treat you in return. That brings us to the fourth habit, and in many ways it's the one that ties them all together. Routine without purpose. Now don't get me wrong, routines can be good. They bring structure, comfort, predictability. But when life becomes only routine, when every day looks exactly the same, with no variety, no spontaneity, no little spark of "what's next?" your mental health begins to quietly flatten out. It might look like this: wake up, eat breakfast, watch TV, nap, eat dinner, go to bed, repeat. Nothing wrong with those actions. They're part of life. But when there's no meaning tucked inside them, when your routine becomes a loop without intention, it starts to feel empty, like you're just passing time instead of living it. Your brain needs little doses of novelty, challenge, and purpose to stay fully alive. That doesn't mean you have to climb a mountain or launch a business. It could mean volunteering for an hour at the library, joining a walking group, taking an online class, setting a goal, big or small, and working toward it a little each day. I once met a retired bus driver who told me he felt completely lost after he stopped working. The silence at home was louder than the engine of his old route. But then he started writing short stories, just a paragraph a day. Within months, he was reading them at the local community center. It gave his days rhythm, color, and a sense of accomplishment. That's what purpose does. It doesn't make life perfect, but it makes it meaningful. And that meaning, it protects your mind. It lifts your mood. It makes you feel like you again. So if you've been going through the motions lately, waking up but not really feeling awake, moving but not feeling motivated, it might be time to inject a little purpose into your routine. Ask yourself, what would give me something to look forward to this week? What would challenge me just enough to feel alive? The answer doesn't have to be big, it just has to be yours. The habits we've talked about today, withdrawing from others, feeding your mind negativity, neglecting your own needs, and drifting through days without meaning, they can creep in slowly, silently. But once you notice them, you have power. power to shift, to rewire, to reclaim. Because here's the truth. Mental health after 65 is not about avoiding sadness altogether. It's about staying emotionally flexible, resilient, engaged. And that kind of strength comes from the small choices you make every day. There's something powerful that happens when you decide to care for your mind the same way you care for your body. You begin to realize that mental strength isn't just something you're born with. It's something you build, one choice at a time. And at this stage of life, every choice you make matters even more. Because now you're not chasing anyone else's version of happiness, you're creating your own. Let's pause for a second and take a breath. Think about what your life feels like right now. Not how it looks to others, not what people expect, but how it feels to you. Is it calm, fulfilling, peaceful? Or is there a heaviness you've been carrying, a restlessness in your chest, a sense that something's missing even though everything seems fine? That quiet tug, that feeling that maybe you've lost a little piece of yourself along the way. That's not weakness, that's awareness. That's your mind telling you, hey, I still need care too. And that's the beauty of all of this. Once you see the hidden habits that quietly chip away at your mental well-being, you can start doing something about them. You don't need to flip your life upside down or pretend to be someone you're not. You just need to start showing up for you. Let's say you've been feeling isolated. Instead of trying to rebuild your entire social life overnight, start small. Call one person, write one letter, smile at one stranger, open the door to connection, even a crack, and let the light in. Or maybe your days have felt monotonous. Same routine, same silence, same TV shows. What if you added just one new thing this week? A new recipe, a 5-minute walk in a different direction, a visit to a nearby cafe you've never stepped inside. That little bit of novelty, it reminds your brain that you're still living, not just waiting for time to pass. And if you've caught yourself being overly self-critical or putting your needs last, try flipping the script. Treat yourself like you treat your closest friend. Would you call them lazy for needing rest? Useless for having a low day? Of course not. You'd offer kindness, patience, and support. You deserve that same grace, especially now. If the news and the noise have been overwhelming your thoughts, give your mind a break. Curate your environment like you decorate your home, with things that bring peace, not panic. Choose what you let in. Make space for beauty, for music, for laughter, for calm. And when that voice inside says, I'm too old, or it's too late, or no one needs me anymore, challenge it, gently but firmly, because it's wrong. You are still here. You are still needed. And the world is better because you're in it. Maybe no one told you lately, but I will. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to grow. You are allowed to find peace, purpose, and joy, no matter what your birth certificate says. So take a moment right now and ask yourself, what's one small shift I can make today to support my mental well-being? Not next week, not after the holidays. Today. One small change. That's all it takes to start a new direction. Because mental health isn't a destination, it's a relationship, a daily act of caring. And the more you show up for your mind, the more it will show up for you. If this video spoke to you, I'd love to hear about it. Leave a comment and share your experience. Even just a sentence. What resonated? What are you working on? What would you tell someone else who might be struggling silently? And if this brought you any value, consider clicking that like button. It helps more people find this message. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe. We're building a space here where age is not a limit, but a strength, where you're never too old to take care of yourself, grow, or rediscover what it means to be you. You deserve peace. You deserve lightness. You deserve to feel good, inside and out. So here's to your mind, strong, tender, and always worth fighting for. Here's to a life that still has chapters to write, and here's to you,